if you go online, social media, YouTube, Discord, Reddit, online forums, you'll eventually come across people complaining about politics in Star Wars. Well, for them, I would just say I like having a good dose of politics in Star Wars, but sometimes Star Wars does muddle the political message, especially with the sequel trilogy. The original trilogy, of course, is actually probably the most black and white, good versus evil. The rebels are fighting against the tyranny and authoritarianism of the Empire in the hope to restore the Republic, democracy, liberty, justice, all that. Now, some people do get muddled because there's apparently some people who say the Empire did nothing wrong. I hope they're joking, but for some of them, I can't tell. And that's a little bit nerve-wracking, that some people might unironically think the Empire did nothing wrong. Some people also get confused with the Vietnam allegory with the Battle of Endor. Hint, America is not the rebels in that scene. America is the Empire, and the rebels and the Ewoks are representing the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese army. So some people get that muddled, but that's a little more understandable because, we're kind of ashamed of the Vietnam War as a country generally, so I understand some people don't quite fully grasp what was actually going on there. But the point being is that overall, this original trilogy is pretty blatant in what's going on. Sometimes some people don't see certain parallels, but generally, what's going on? No, good is fighting to restore democracy, liberty, and all that, while evil is fighting for tyranny and authoritarianism. Pretty obvious, pretty easy to tell. The prequels does kind of muddle things up, but in a different way. It muddles things up by being more complex, more realistic. And I think that's where some people start objecting. To them, the politics is boring. They don't understand what it's doing. So let's take a good example. Palpatine versus Padme. In the Galactic Republic, once Palpatine maneuvers himself to be Chancellor by stoking a fake crisis, by the way, a fast flag, he does that, and then he serves his terms, and then probably convinces somebody, it wasn't his idea, to amend the Constitution to allow him to serve an additional term or two as Chancellor. And he's probably like, we don't get to see this on screen, but he's like, I love democracy. I accept this burden with a heavy heart, as it's the right thing to do. Making play that he's doing this for the good of the Republic when it's really for himself. Meanwhile, on Naboo, Padme could have been given an additional term as queen. Naboo has an elected term limited queen, by the way. They were willing to amend the Constitution because they liked her rule as queen so much. But she did not want that to occur. She did not want to stay in power for the sake of power, even though people actually wanted her to stay in power. Instead, a new queen was elected, and she was nominated to be the senator for Naboo, which she accepted. She continued serving her planet in a new role because she respected the constitutional norms of her planet, unlike Palpatine, who was willing to change the constitutional norms of the Republic to maintain power. And again, too, during the Separatist crisis that we see in Attack of the Clones, he wants to gain emergency power so he can gain more power in the Senate, but he can't suggest it himself because then it'll destroy his image. Instead, he has Mass Ameda suggest that if only Padme was there. Padme would never go along with this, by the way, but she lodged a protest when she got back. But that was enough to convince Jar Jar to make the suggestion to give Palpatine emergency powers. And there Palpatine goes against it. He accepts this responsibility with humility and promises to give the powers up when the crisis is averted, playing the role by pretending to be something he's not. And then by the time of the Revenge of the Sith, and also with plenty of good examples also shown in the Clone Wars, Palpatine has pretty much full control of the Senate and the courts. That's why Mace Windu was willing to kill Palpatine, because Mace Windu saw no way through the legal process of stopping Palpatine's rise of tyranny. Yes, Palpatine was also a Sith Lord, and being a Sith and being a tyrant kind of go hand in hand in Star Wars, very much so, with only a few oddball examples here and there. But you can see where Mace Windu was thinking. He's like, what choice do I have in this moment? Do I accept doing this one wrong act now in order to save the galaxy a world of hurt? That was his decision making. But let's also go around back when Palpatine revealed that he was a Sith to Anakin. What if Anakin in that moment decided to side with Palpatine? How would the Jedi rebellion that Palpatine used to justify reorganizing the Republic as the Galactic Empire and gaining even more power, have actually how would he have done it? Well, the thing is, all they have to do is have Anakin say he came to the Chancellor warning of an attempted Jedi coup, and then the Republic strike first in order to prevent the coup from occurring. A self coup. That's what Order 66 was. No matter how Palpatine said the Jedi attempted to coup him, Order 66 was a self coup in order to establish the Galactic Empire. Because while we do see in the Bad Batch that the inhibitor chips do eventually wear off, for the first couple months, Palpatine had full control of the military in such a way that pretty much no clone was going to question his orders. So he could have ordered them to march on the Senate if the Senate didn't go along with him proclaiming himself emperor. He could have done that. He had that plan. And then we have the entirety of between. We have Rebels, Andor, the rest of the Bad Batch, which show more of Palpatine's machinations. Rebels really just shows the story of a rebel cell fighting the Empire. Andor really, though, shows why people fight the Empire and the Empire's tyranny to everyday life. Yes, Andor was part of the Ardani heist, and the Empire did catch him, but they did not know that because he was just walking too fast on the beach and was looking suspicious. Is there a crime with that? No, there shouldn't be. But the Empire, well, that was enough for, I think, 2 years of hard labor? And that's showing the Empire cracking down on the Republic, on the public, not the Republic, though. Res Publica does come from the Latin for of the public, I believe. But regardless, on that regard, that is showing how the Empire was affecting the daily life. The Ardar heist just accelerated it. Lucen is an accelerationist, very much. He's willing to make things worse in order for things to hopefully be better in the future. Meanwhile, the people on Ferric, the people on Lasal, the Ghost Crew, they're not that. They're fighting where they can. Yes, the people on Ferric, they needed to be woken up, and that's what Marva in her funeral, just her own eulogy, said. That she was asleep too long and she was living once again or had to do her life over, she would wake up sooner. She would be woke. The proper term of woke. Being aware of societal injustices and doing something about it. The proper definition, not whatever conservatives in America are trying to make it out to be. And she basically inspires the people of Felix to riot and rise up against the Empire on their planet. And it goes badly for the Empire. Though it is also stopped by the Empire overreacting to that message. If they did nothing, it probably would have dispersed peacefully. Yes, that one boy, he may have still attempted to throw his bomb, or he may not have. But he did when the riot started. And things blew out of control there. That is the tyranny of the Empire, the way it affects everyday people. Now we need to jump to the sequel trilogy, and this is where Star Wars truly has muddled its politics. On the surface, it has some really good ideas. The resurgence of a right-wing fascist threat on the galaxy that's threatening the Republic and democracy, very good on the surface. Leia's deciding that the politicians are not doing anything and someone has to do something, so she does that something, and it's because of her that not only the First Order but the Sith are truly defeated. When Yoda said there is another when Luke leaves Dagobah to Ben Kenobi's Force Ghost, he was talking about Leia, but if we read, certain point of view, I believe also addresses this. Leia is who Yoda wanted to train from the get-go, not Luke. And yes, we credit Anakin as a chosen one, Luke sometimes too, Obi-Wan definitely, but the thing is that Leia is the reason why the Empire was defeated and Palpatine was defeated in the end. It was Leia. Leia was the reason why Luke left Tatooine. Maybe he might have joined the Imperial Academy and defected to the Rebels, but it was because of Leia that he got kind of Ben Kenobi and knew he could train as a Jedi. Leia is the reason. And Leia, without Leia, yes, I'm sure Poe would have still, opposed the First Order. Finn probably would have had his doubts, but he probably would have been mind scraped a few times. Rey would have still been living on Jakku. Maybe she would have got involved, maybe not. But if not for Leia, all three of them definitely would not have come together. And all the other people who fought for the Resistance. Leia is that reason. But that's all good and all, but they muddled the messaging because The way they portrayed the First Order and the Final Order for the antagonists of the films was not as a resurgence of fascism within the Republic, but rather as an invasion, as a government exile returning in force to reclaim the galaxy and reclaim their power. I'm using reclaim loosely there, but that's how they portrayed it. They're not showing how the fascist threat can arise from within, which is what we're seeing today. In fact, most fascist threats arise from within. I highly recommend you read the book on tyranny by Timothy Snyder. 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. It talks about that, and yes, it talks about how most authoritarian, fascist, totalitarian threats arise from within rather than from without. And that's the problem with the sequel trilogy's politics. Its messaging for what they were representing the First Order and the Final Order as was not consistent with what they probably should have been trying to tell, what they painted them as. If they wanted an external threat invading the Republic, they might as well just adapt the Yu Zhang Vong, because that is an external threat. But the First Order, they used the trappings of an internal threat, but wrote them like an external threat. So it's muddled. Why should people fight the First Order? It should be obvious because they're an invader, not because of any reason from within. But if they wrote it as a threat rising from within, then you have the thing of people are scared. People don't want to get hurt. They don't want to bring undue attention to themselves. And much more understandable, because I feel like if the First Order was truly an external threat, the New Republic should have been responding much better, because that would have been a threat to their sovereignty. Not, oh, we have this political faction coming up, and we don't want to trample on our free speech, and all that. That would have been a way better story. Maybe a more political thriller type story. Bloodline's a really good book, by the way, which is a political thriller. Really good book. I highly recommend you read it as well. It's by Claudia Gray. But the point being, it got muddled because how they presented the First Order as that external threat, but had them written as that internal threat, and that muddles the message. Either make the First Order entirely an external threat, which would have meant the Republic should have been responding, or make it entirely an internal threat, maybe assisted by some outside forces, but mostly rising from within, and that would have been like much more gray, for lack of a better term, much more complex. But they didn't. They muddled the messaging, and it thus is undermined. People don't know what the sequel trilogy was trying to say politically because they muddled it. Makes me wonder how much were they aware of it. They did not properly build off of the political themes of the prequels and the original trilogy. And that's the sequel's greatest flaw. You may not have liked a particular film or enjoyed it, or enjoyed that message in it, but the thing is, the greatest flaw, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is that it muddled the political messaging of Star Wars and did not properly build off of the messages of the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. So now the question is to you. Do you agree with my conclusion on this? Do you agree with my assessment of politics in Star Wars? I like seeing politics in Star Wars. I want to see more of it. But do you agree? Was the political messaging mumbled from what they had established previously? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always.